The Great Pyramid is the tree of life. MerKaBa, MerKaBa, MerKaBa.
But it's good to be here for this occasion, Dr. Nelson. Knowing about me, I just am. The best way, like, people used to do all this long reading thing, the best way to introduce yourself, Sister Annie, I am God having a human experience called me.
All right.
I am the Christ. I am the Christ, like each of you. Now, it's scary for people who are Christians and Muslims to really think like that, because when they were teaching us the way, we got confused along the way, you see? And what Dr. Nelson has done with her books, and especially this new one, the MerKaBa, is to kind of get rid of the confusion. Malcolm said, make it plain, make things simple so people don't have to struggle to understand, And so I'm going to spend about 20 minutes really I'm up here to really introduce Dr. Nelson, but she just wanted me to say a couple little things. So I'm going to read a couple of little things first, and then I'm going to come back to the essence of her book. But what I'm going to read speaks to the essence of the book. The MerKaBa is talking about how we become conscious of the fact that we are the divine having this experience, that we are an aspect of the divine essence having this experience. I got this thing on the back. That's what I'm feeling. It's good when you got the poncho, you just turn it around, right? And my brother from the Sudan, I could be a good Muslim too, so I'll break up the Muslim tradition, right? And then I'll break up my Kemetic tradition, I could be a good Christian too, to praise the Lord, our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, hallelujah. Because it's all the same thing. Let me tell you a little secret,
Right.
so you can follow me as I'm going. All religions are nothing but approaches to trying to understand or access the divine within you. That's all religions are. What has happened though, people have hijacked the original purpose for these methods of accessing the divine and turned it into slaveocracies to control your mind. Now Stephen Biko, our great beautiful son who was murdered in South Africa, said the most powerful weapon in the hands of the oppressor is the mind of the oppressed. The most powerful weapon in the hands of the oppressor is the minds of the oppressed. And what most theocracies are used for today is to control your mind. Brothers we know, like who are Muslim, when we said this, Hu Allahu Ahad, Allahu Samad, Walam Yalid, Walam Yulad, Walam Yakul Lahu Kufuwan Ahad, Allahu Akbar. We said we know that God is one, He begets none, nor is He begotten, there's none like and unto the divine, right? But then you go all the way back to Kemet, Egypt, and then you read the prayer of Akhenaten, and it says, "O soul God, you who gave birth to none, and who was given birth to by none, you alone, O divine soul God, do I worship." That prayer is no different from the Ikhlas of Islam. Because Prophet Muhammad did not say, "I come to bring a new religion." He actually said, "I come not to bring a new religion." So we have to ask questions, have we got a new religion? Christ didn't come to bring a new religion. He never said he come to bring a new religion. That's something Paul, who wasn't even a disciple, an apostle, who was a murderer, killing all Christ's followers, gave you the religion of Christianity. Christ said, "I come as a fulfillment of the law." And then people say, "Oh, the law, you're talking about Torah." Well, guess what? Torah simply means wisdom. What wisdom? the wisdom that we are now talking about right here from Kemet. Kemet represents the culmination of Africans' understanding of their relationship to the divine. Everybody in this room, and what this book is explaining to you, that everyone in this room, everything in this room, everything in existence is an expression of an aspect of the divine having the peculiar experience it's having. You know, it's like a light. Let me read something I wrote a long time ago about light, and it makes it sound a little simple. It said, and the great light brought out of itself smaller lights. For it is only through constant replication that the great light continues to exist and know that it exists. Each small light represents an aspect of the personality of the divine. Each of us are like small lights, like the sun. That's why we use it as the symbol. It gives off all of this light. Now it would appear that the light dissipates and no longer exists in a relationship with the sun. But that light becomes the very energy in the other bodies that exist. I am, every day, every night, eating sunlight. Now, I eat Ra, we call it Ra in the old days. I eat the sunlight, not pure radiation, because that'll kill me. So the divine sent some brothers and sisters down here called celery and collard greens and carrots and peaches and pears, so that they could absorb the light and break it down in a certain way that I can absorb that light without burning myself up. Do you understand what I'm saying? That tells you that everything is everything, all is one. And as Sister Nelson explains and breaks down in the book, that when you talk about KaAbBa, and you're talking about the Ka, which expresses itself as the Ba, and then she talks about the Ab being the heart of the living being that comes into existence. One is spirit, one is matter, but spirit and matter is the same thing, simply expressing itself in different ways. And for a purpose. All of our purpose is to restore, from what I understand, the perfection that existed in the beginning. And I know she's read and quoted from so many of our ancient texts, but there's one text called the Bremerine Papyrus. And I just want to read some from the Bremerine Papyrus, translated by our brother who has since joined the ancestors, Theophile Benga. I was also on that committee that did this translation, but the brother that actually did it was Akmi Ra, who did the bulk of the work of Akmi Ra out of Baltimore. And this book is written 20, if not more, 1,000 years before the Torah, before the Bible, before the Quran. It's called the Book of Knowing the Forms of the Existence of God and the Killing of the Devil. But they say knowing the existence of Ra and the killing of our pet, or knowing the existence of order and the destroying of disorder. And the book goes, and it says, thus spoke the master of all. And this is the Genesis story. Before you get the Genesis, you know. He says, when I manifest myself into existence, now follow me because there's a lot of these existences, right? When I manifest myself into existence, existence began to exist. Now this goes to Dr. Nelson's book when she's explaining to us that the Ba has come to earth to represent the Ka. I got that right? Okay. So when existence began to exist, it says, when I manifest myself into existence, the Ka is saying, when I manifest myself into the Ba, if we want to put it that way, I came into existence in the form of existing. I came to existence, mean to being, in the form of existing. I'm continuous. Who came into existence for the first time. Since I came to existence in accordance with the mode of existing, I therefore existed. Meaning, the God that we reference, the Amen, the unknowable, the unseeable, the one that we can't know, we know that divine because we are expressions of aspect of that divine's essence having this experience. And all of what is of the divine is of us. And one of our purpose, the ancestors say, is to perfect ourselves so that we return back to that divine that projected us out like a boomerang. You know, it goes out into me, no matter how far it goes, it comes back to the source of the force that sent it out. And that's the way we are. And when you read this book, you begin to understand how to restore yourself. The MerKaBa, the MerKaBa, tells you how to begin to restore yourself. She referred to it as being the unconscious, is the unconscious consciousness. I'm getting old, you know. So to really understand how to recognize the consciousness and how to know that you become conscious. Okay? And so the book is really simplifying what can be very complicated if you had to do all this research on your own. She's giving you a blueprint that fits your time, your space, your language, that will allow you to reconstruct yourself so that you can begin to struggle to perfect yourself, so that you can begin to restore yourself. Now, once you restore yourself, you've restored the universe, because we are the universe. Everybody in here this morning came, and for the last, all of your life, you have not been getting up and killing a human being and cutting them up and putting some sauce and eating them to restore yourself. You have been eating everything else in nature to restore yourself. Peas, greens, tomato, other fruits and vegetables, animals and other protein, fishes and other things. We eat all of the abundant life in nature to restore us. Isn't that incredible? That we are made up of all the other things in nature. You know, the skeleton renews itself every 10 years. The skin renews itself, I forgot how many times. And then each cell renews itself. So every 10 years or so, we are a completely new physiological being. What makes us new? What we ingest. What do we ingest? What the African brothers and sisters in Sudan and in Congo and other places call their brothers and their sisters. I had to go out in the woods back in the day when I was hanging down in the Congo, you know, some centuries back, to cut some wood because I needed to make some fire to cook some meat. I went to my brother, the tree, and said, "Oh, good morning, my dear brother. I have come today to pour some libation and give blessing unto you because I need you to stay. I need to take your life to continue my life. But I know that you're my brother, and I know that you give life. And in order for me to take your life, I have to beg your permission to share your life with me." So white folks go to Africa and they say, "We worship in the tree." No, we just love in the tree because the tree is me. You know what I'm saying? When you get, and look, I'm telling you, I was coming up here on the bus. I was kind of glad we ran into the accident and gave me a little more time less to kind of study, because I hadn't studied like I said, because like, damn. Remember I always tell you need to simplify that thing and break it down, because KaAbBa was just too heavy. That was too heavy a book. I had to go through that book 10, 15 times, and I still ain't got it. It's heavy, so I said, "Sister, break it down." Yeah, so people can, so, you know, when the new institute, the MerKaBa Institute that's being open and being dedicated, that is another way that this institute that you're now sitting in will be able to expand itself and create programs and courses that will expand you and those who you bring to this institute. And that's the other important reason why we're here today. But to understand that this is not a game we play. We are trying to restore ourselves, because it's no longer, it never has been just about us as black people. You know, it has been about us as being the divine, constantly trying to perfect itself. But realize now, even what we call the imperfection is an aspect of the same divine in transition. So don't get confused like the Christians and the Muslims and the Jews have us thinking good over there, bad over here, evil. That's not the way it works. There is no such thing in Africa as good and evil in that sense. Okay? And so we have to understand that we are spirits in transition. And so there's a process and there are cycles in the process. And what the book describes is some of those cycles in that process of your transition from the divine back to the divine. Death is the most frightening thing in the world for all of us. But yet it is the gate that we must go through in order to get back to the source from which we emanated. But since we don't know that, the fear creates spiritual paralysis that don't allow us to develop ourselves and be prepared to walk through that gate. And I had experience, you know Uncle Snowy, right? Uncle Snowy was 96 and he passed away in September. So I'd gone down to see him in July. You know, see how he was kicking down to South Carolina, and he was cool. You know, he was still sitting up there on the porch and breaking out his 9mm and showing me, "Boy, I'm still ready." And he got one under the bed and one hanging on the wall, and he got his big hunting knife, Roddy, on the table. Roddy's been in that room with him. And he says, you know, I might call you soon. I said, okay. I got back to New York 2 weeks later. His daughter called and said, Daddy, want to talk to you. He said, come on home, Bob. That's my mother's last brother. I said, what's up? He said, I'm getting ready to leave, and I want you to be here with me. So I got on the plane, flew to South Carolina, in a little car, drove on down to the plantation, and sat with them, and he was able to talk for the first 2 days. The last 2 days, his voice is gone, but he still communicated. We still smiled and laughed. And the last thing he wrote on the paper for me was to go to the ancestral place. It's an old township called the Freewood. We come from a maroon community or runaway community from the enslavement. And so he wanted me to go there. So I went about 11 in the morning. But having been gone almost 50 years, I don't recognize nothing. There's subdivisions and housing and everything, shopping mall, new high school. But I feel where I'm at, you know, and I drive around through some of the fields. And I get back about 9 o'clock at night to his house, and he's laying out there sucking a lollipop. And I told him, I said, I spent the whole day with the ancestors, just riding around with them, and I could feel them, and he started smiling. He was happy. I left him at 11 o'clock. He went to sleep then, and he never woke up. And Tuesday, discovered he had made his transition. Never complained, never did. He smiled, and he played with us right until he left. Made it very clear, no doctor, no hospital, no nothing. I'm leaving, and I just want y'all to be with me while I go. Now here's a man who had seen that gate, who understood he was walking through, that there's a transition, he's going home. He told me, he says, I talked with your mother, that's his sister, my mother, and who had transited a few years ago. And he said, I talked with your mother, my sister, and she's happy. And he talked with his brother, and he talked with grandma and them, and he told me about all these conversations he had with them over the 2 days. And then he just left. Now my mom left the same way. She went to the plantation. She was in town with my sister. She went to the plantation. She had some business to deal with one of Martha's kids who had used somebody's credit card. She got through chastising her, and she sent everybody to go on errands. And 10 minutes later, when they came back, she was in her mother's rocking chair, gone. She just left. You know, Mama left the same way. So they understood that their spirits in transition. And so when we look at the KaAbBa, when we look at the expression that Dr. Nelson has put forth in this new literature, to teach us how to grow ourselves so that we again become ourselves. That's my simplifying, your simplification. And so it is worth buying and referring it to friends. It is absolutely worth studying because it's going to teach you how to see. If you think you understand Islam, read this book. If you think you understand Christianity, read this book. Because if you look, say, at the Catholic Church, for instance, they have all these saints and all of these they got saints and they got angels and archangels. Well, you can find all those saints and all those archangels in ancient Egypt, except there they call the Nteri. And and in Islam they call them the 99 pearls of faith, the 99 names of God. These are the quality and attributes of the divine as discerned by the minds of that community who was trying at that time to comprehend how to put together a systemic way to approach accessing the divine with it. Y'all got me? Y'all good. So, I'm going to just be a little more what we said in the old book. I therefore existed, and it was thus that I came to existence, for I was before, they use the word anterior, and I was before, I was way before, beyond any measuring, the Nteri, which was before. In short, this force, this thing we call God is saying, I've been here, we said it down south, we had a term called been here since been yonder. You got to be from South Carolina to understand and say, I've been here since been yonder. I mean, you can't measure how long I've been here. So what the divine is saying, that there is no way to know my beginning. There's no way to know. I don't have perimeters that you can measure me, you know. And that's one of the stories when we really get, when you go to a Sarah set and really get into them, is how they invented time. The very experience of the life of a Sarah set represents so many aspects of explaining the divine, but one of the things it represents is the invention of time itself as a way of measuring our transition. you know, that we're going into. And then the divine going and says, I made, and this is what I really love, and then I'll stop reading at this one. He said, God said, I made, this is the African God, y'all. You got to differentiate between the Arab gods and the European gods and the Asian gods. And the Indian god is African god, so that's an African god. You with me? Okay. So God says, I made all things I desire to make in this world, and this is the piece that's beautiful, I made all things that I desire to make in this world, and I expanded in it. You gotta dig that now. I'm gonna do like the preacher thing. And Lisa, where you at? And I expanded in it. I made all things that I desired to make in this world, and I expanded in it. Meaning the essence of the divine is in everything. Yet we have been taught a theocracy, and we have been taught an intellectual, philosophical approach to life that cut us completely off from the divine and put us in a slave position, appealing to something we are not even allowed to know. That's not African. In Africa, now this, what I'm reading is a book that was written before there was an Abraham, before there was an Isaac, Esau, Jacob, before there was a Jesus or Mary, before there was a prophet Muhammad, before there was a Krishna or Vishnu or Buddha. They wrote this down. These people from Sudan and Congo and Chad, who migrated into the Nile Valley and created this phenomenal civilization, they wrote this down. And what they wrote, they said that from their understanding of the divine says, I made all things I desired to make in this world, and I expanded in it. And so when you look at that, and you look at yourself being God having a human experience known as you, then you'll understand what Dr. Nelson is saying. And as she mentioned in one piece, she says, Spirit had revealed this MerKaBa symbol to me when I wrote the book, the KaAbBa, Building the Lighted Temple. It was placed on the front cover, and when you go through the book, and she had it up on the board, but when you look at the tree of life as she has defined it, and you look at the anthropomorphic symbolisms out of Kemet that she used to represent the different aspects of it, she understood there's something in the spirit that has allowed her to decipher things that even the great ones like Dr. Ben was unable to decipher. Everybody know I love Doc. Me and Dr. Ben, we go back. Dr. Ben will tell you, I'm the first man that ever throw him out of a mosque. He came in Muslim mosque back in '67. Him and Professor Simmons, I have Sister Ella told me, throw him out, Brother Small. I had to throw him out of the mosque. But he turned out to be my best teacher and father. But he did not go this deep, even though he brought us into the shrine of Hunef, and he brought us to the brotherhood, and he brought us into a lot of the secrets that's there. He did not understand what you are now expressing, because the light is given to the seekers. And so we are all here, you know, in the Yoruba tradition. I'm a priest. I'm Obenjoko Adebayo. I'm a priest of everything you can name. I'm a priest of Oya. So they call me, you know, I'm a Babalorisha. And I'm good at it. I love it. But one thing you learn being Oya is like always the symbol used as a woman, a beautiful, attractive woman with locks, and she represents the wind. She represents change in process. And so what I learned to understand from being a part of Ifa Orisha tradition, which we mistakenly call the Yoruba tradition, because that tradition is used all over Africa. If you go into Congo, it's the same tradition. You go to Sudan and Chad, it's the same tradition. But it's different names. You use the ecology you're in to represent the ideas, principles, and concepts to be expressed. And each ecology have different symbols that express those things differently. So if I'm in the desert, the thing that would express change would be different from if I'm in a river valley, the thing I would have to use to express change. If I'm in the forest, the thing I have to use to express change be different from when if I'm on the savannah in the plains. And so symbols are nothing more than anthropomorphic representations of ideas and concepts that you need to absorb in your mind. Everything that you know to be God is already embedded in you. Our purpose for coming to earth, we are told in the folklore of the urban tradition that we sat with God, Oludumare, and we discussed what we were coming for. And then the divine says, okay, so we go. Yes, we know our order, our consciousness, that we come here with a purpose. All of us, everyone in this room, left the divine space with a destiny that you agreed upon with God to fulfill. The transition caused us to lose memory of that. What these spiritual systems are supposed to do is to help to restore that consciousness of being conscious of being who you are. And that's what this book helps you to do. So Dr. Nelson, we want to praise you again. You not only brought us the lighted temple, you've added greater light to the temple to illuminate the path of all of us. And so I hope my words have suggested to the people that this is not something that is removed from you, that you cannot see, that this is you, and that when you read these books, these are not books written by nobody in the sky, they're written by men and women on earth, all holy books, and they were written with you in mind. And I'll kind of conclude with this, because you always got to refer back to the Bible, the Torah, and the Quran. The entire story in the Bible, Torah, and the Quran, which is a repetition of the same stories, right, and the same people. It is the experience of one family discovering the essence of the divine. Let me tell you that again. Go back to the Bible, to the Torah, and you're talking about one family who recognized their genesis as a family. And all the lines, Abraham, Lot is his nephew, and this one is his grandson, and this one is the great-grandnephew. And by the time you get to Prophet Muhammad, you're talking about the Genesis being Abraham's son, Ishmael. So they're talking about one family having an experience with discovering the essence of the divine within and trying to explain to the rest of the world how they too can discover it. Y'all got me? Okay? And what sister's doing for us. See, because every people got a right to write their own holy book. That's the other thing y'all want to get. See, we think holy books that's the end. No. Even in the Quran, there says that the Prophet Muhammad ibn Abdullah al-Amin was the seal of the prophecy. Am I right, my big brother? But nobody can prove whether that's the seal, the stamp, or the seal, the end. Linguistically, they haven't proved it yet, but they say it, and then it says the seal means no more. I take the position it's the seal meaning the stamp, that he represents prophecy. Because the divine would not stop dealing with itself. First of all, our scale of measurement is too short. Our timeline is all wrong. We go to the Rift Valley, we find an African bones that's been running around there 5 million years or more. We go to Chad, we find African bones 27 million years. Somebody's timeline is all messed up. Okay? So let's get back on course, and this book will help you get back on course. Each day, you are to be born again. Each day, the birth of all of us as physical beings represents the same thing that is described in the Bible as the birth of the Christ. Each day, the birth of us as new consciousness that is a greater consciousness than the consciousness of the day before represents the same thing as the birth of Haru and the birth of the Christ. Each day. So if you can study that and then compare that to yourself, you'll see who you are. And what this book does is help you to do that. Every nation have a right to explain the divine to themselves. That was the fight between Othman and Ali. See, no one has ever truly tell the world what that argument was really about. You know, Othman was making a case as Abu Sufyan's nephew about doing things one way. Ali, but this is an Islamic discussion I'm having with my brothers now. Don't want me that. And Ali was making a discussion about a more spiritual way. And people trying to reduce it to saying, well, Ali was saying that Ali and Othman were two followers of the Prophet Muhammad, and after the Prophet died, they became among the 5 immediate leaders. But there became an argument between the two. They were also first cousins. Except the problem was, Othman was of a line of an adopted member of the family. Ali was of a line that was a genetic blood member of the family. That's the real argument that's split Islam into Shia and Sunnah, and then that's another whole discussion for the world. But for us today, but they had a right to write their experience as a holy book and give it to the world. Well, we have that same right, people. And what Dr. Nelson has done is she's written another chapter in the holy book of the African peoples having this experience. And so we are, as I open it, we are the divine, we are God, having a human experience for us.
We come now to serve and save the rising suns inside. Reascension into sacredness, all our gathering in. Reascension into sacredness from the four winds, from the four winds, from the four winds. Feel their great power, feel their great